you imagine if you owned a piece of property and you cared about climate change, and somebody came onto your property and drilled an oil well and started producing oil and, caused it to make climate change worse? That's exactly what's happening with these lands and waters that belong to all of us. Are we going to continue with the way things have always been done? Or are we going to shift to the new energy approach that's necessary in order to keep our planet from cooking out of control? And that's the choice that we face right now. They are planning in roughly the end of October to offer 80 million acres of the Gulf of Mexico, essentially every unleased available area in the Gulf of Mexico. They're planning to offer that for sale to any oil company that wants to buy the lease. And that's a huge carbon bomb that would end up producing more than 1 billion barrels of oil from those leases if they're sold, and produce that over multiple decades. They are relying on the exact same environmental analysis that the Trump administration relied on in order to proceed with this sale. And among other things, that environmental analysis claims that it would be better for the world's climate to proceed with the sale than to keep all that oil and gas in the ground. It is not only facially obvious that it's worse for the climate to produce 1 billion more barrels of oil. In the last year or so, 2 federal courts have rejected that same analysis in 2 other cases because it doesn't make any sense and it's unreasoned. And that's the ground on which the Biden administration is proceeding here. Oil and gas development is a hugely disruptive industrial operation, and it happens in the middle of a marine wilderness, a wild place filled with wild animals that depend on a clean and healthy environment. And as we've seen in the BP Horizon oil spill, for example, the risk of catastrophic harm for the local environment from this sort of oil and gas development is really serious. And that's just on top of the normal and still damaging air pollution and water pollution that comes from an industrially intensive and dirty activity. But at the end of the day, climate change is an issue of atmospheric physics. And climate change is going to do what climate change is going to do regardless of the politics. And we're going to have to deal with the consequences of climate change regardless of how hard this is politically. And that's why we need to do it now. The reality is that the Biden administration has a real possibility to go to the rest of the world with a robust plan for dealing with climate change. Forest protection, investments in clean energy, but being willing to tamp down and to move away from really aggressive oil and gas production is an important part of the picture that they need to do.